This video is brought to you by Brilliant. Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter way back in 2022 was controversial for a whole load of reasons, but his basic aspiration to protect freedom of speech and improve transparency on a platform that had sort of become the global town square was laudable. Nearly 2 years on, however, that's not really how things have panned out. Twitter, or X as it's now known, has become a far more divisive place. In some part thanks to Musk's own politics, and the constant stream of controversy has spooked advertisers, invited regulation, and probably accelerated the decline of its user base. So in this video, we thought we'd take a look at how Twitter has transformed into X, Musk's personal politics, and why the platform's future looks increasingly precarious. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. So the primary cause of X's recent trouble is politics. In the years before Musk's acquisition, a sense had developed among not just conservatives, but even some centrist and liberals that Twitter had a slight leftward bias. However, multiple studies at the time found that Twitter's algorithms actually amplified right-wing views slightly more than left-wing ones, and unreliable right-wing views especially. But Republicans were still more likely to get banned by Twitter's moderation team than Democrats, and the platform was significantly more popular with Democrats than Republicans. When Musk bought the platform, he was vocal in his aspiration to address its apparent liberal bias, and was also keen to signal that he wasn't planning a drastic revamp, calling for freedom of speech but not freedom of reach, and promised that negative or hate tweets will be max deboosted. However, since taking charge, Musk has, in many ways, single-handedly pushed Twitter's politics well to the right. Thanks to a combination of algorithmic tweets and an exodus of left-leaning users, Republicans have seen their followings increase by far more than Democrats since Musk took over. And content on Twitter, or X as it's now known, does feel like it's moved right. This would explain why it's become significantly more popular with Republicans, and less so with Democrats. Pew Research data released in June showed that, while in 2021 Democrats were more likely to say that Twitter is good for democracy, while Republicans were more likely to say it's bad, those numbers have since flipped. Today, more Democrats think X is bad for democracy than good, while more Republicans think it's good for democracy than bad. The change in sentiment has been particularly dramatic amongst conservatives. In 2021, just 17% of Republicans thought Twitter was good for democracy, while 60% thought it was bad. Today, though, 53% think it's good, while just 13% think it's bad. That same polling also found that users perceive Twitter as being more conservative than other social media sites, with 18% of X users saying their algorithm leans conservative, compared to 6% on TikTok, 12% on Facebook, and 7% on Instagram. But even if X has shifted rightward slightly in certain respects, perhaps the biggest change since Musk took over is Musk's own politics. Unlike his predecessors, Musk is an avid tweeter, and his politics have apparently shifted drastically to the right in the past few years. Until about 2020, Musk was basically a Democrat. He donated to both Obama and Clinton, described Trump as probably not the right guy in 2016, and voted for Biden in 2020. Today, however, Musk is a passionate Trump supporter, and his penchant for interacting with conspiratorial far-right ideas and spatting with left-leaning politicians have become a constant sort of controversy. But before we get on to his spats with global politicians, here's a non-exhaustive list of controversial tweets since Musk took over. In May of last year, Musk tweeted that Hungarian financier and liberal philanthropist George Soros, the recurring target of often anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, quote, reminds him of Magneto and hates humanity. A few months later, Musk claimed that the Soros organization wants, quote, nothing less than the destruction of Western civilization, and responded to a tweet claiming that Jewish communities were actively encouraging the immigration of foreign minorities into Western countries, saying, you have said the actual truth. Then, in June, Musk engaged with a number of posts talking about interracial crime rates in the US, focused on how many white Americans are killed by black Americans, claiming the media was, quote, misrepresenting the real situation. In November, Musk posted a meme about the so-called Pizzagate conspiracy theory, which claims that Hillary and Bill Clinton used the Comet Ping Pong restaurant in Washington, D.C. as a front for a child sex trafficking ring. He added, "It does seem at least a little suspicious." Now, for the past few months, Musk has been talking up the prospect of civil war in Europe as an apparently inevitable consequence of liberal immigration policies. Unsurprisingly, when the riots kicked off in the UK last week, Musk jumped on them, warning of civil war and criticising Keir Starmer, who he nicknamed Two-Tier Keir, for apparently cracking down disproportionately on the rioters. Musk also shared a tweet by the co-leader of fascist party Britain First, of a manipulated Telegraph headline claiming that rioters were going to be detained in the Falklands. This isn't the first time that Musk just had a go at a politician. In just the past few weeks, he's also challenged Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro to a fight after Maduro stole the election, shared an AI deepfake campaign video of Kamala Harris where she appears to describe herself as the ultimate diversity hire, and snapped back at California Governor Gavin Newsom when he said Musk's retweet should be illegal. But even if you're partial to this sort of politics, it's impossible to deny that this stream of constant controversy from Musk has been bad for X as a company, for at least 3 reasons. First, and perhaps most importantly, it's terrified advertisers, who've been leaving in droves. This is terrible news for a company that's historically got something like 90% of its revenue from ads, and Musk has resorted to legal action in an attempt to get them back. It's hard to square this with Musk's previous comments, and his threats have, unsurprisingly, only accelerated the advertiser exodus. Second, it's invited regulation. Politicians across the world were already trying to figure out how to regulate social media, and Musk's personal attacks have drawn their attention. Labour MPs have already announced their intention to get Musk before Parliament, and last month the EU published preliminary findings suggesting X is in violation of the Digital Services Act, which could entail fines of up to 6% of the total worldwide annual turnover of the company. For his part, Musk claimed that X was being singled out because he'd turned down a secret deal to censor certain voices. Third, X is simply losing users. In late 2023, Sensor Towers, an analytics company, estimates that downloads of the app are down by 38% compared with a year ago, and that X may have lost around 15% of its monthly users, although this might be partly down to a decrease in bots. Now, despite all of its shortcomings, X is yet to be replaced, and its newfound competitors, like Threads or Mastodon, have never really taken off. Nonetheless, X's trajectory is clearly downhill, and even if it's never replaced, it's still quickly fading into a shadow of its former self. There's a lot of difficult decisions to make here, and making huge decisions is difficult, even for world leaders. The good thing is that Brilliant is where you learn by doing, with thousands of interactive lessons in maths, data, programming, and AI. Their interactive classes help build your critical thinking skills through problem solving, not memorizing. So while you're building real knowledge on specific topics, you'll also be becoming a better thinker. For instance, their Predicting with Probability course can help you better understand and assess the world around you. You can learn to wrangle massive datasets, compare distributions, and master fundamental concepts like Bayes' theorem. That might sound a little technical, but with their active learning, you learn this by answering questions like which airline is least likely to have a delay due to weather, and how much more unruly airline passengers have gotten since the pandemic. Data skills are absolutely necessary for navigating the modern world, and Brilliant is the best way to get them. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/TLDR, or click the link in the description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription.